So let's dive into one of the most powerful and honestly one of the most beautiful ideas in all of science, the theory of evolution. And this is so much more than a story about dinosaurs or ancient apes. It's really the fundamental operating system for all life on Earth. And I think this quote really hits the nail on the head. It's the central idea that's going to frame everything we talk about today. So, what are these small, local causes, and how in the world do they build up into the incredible diversity of life we see all around us? Well, let's find out. Okay, so to get a handle on those grand patterns, we first have to pop the hood and look at the engine that's driving all this change. And it's really powered by just a few key interlocking parts. First up, it all starts right here with mutation. You can think of this as life's R&D department, constantly cooking up new ideas to try out. These are just random, spontaneous little tweaks in the genetic code, and they're happening all the time. For instance, every single human born carries dozens of brand new mutations that their parents didn't have. This is the raw material, the stuff that all evolutionary change is built from. So if mutation creates the new ideas, natural selection is kind of like the editor, or maybe a filter. And let's be clear, this isn't some conscious thinking force. It's just the simple, undeniable fact that some of those new variations will help an organism survive and reproduce just a little bit better in its particular environment. And guess what? Those helpful traits are the ones that are more likely to get passed on. But you know what? It's not always about being the fittest. Sometimes it's just about being lucky. And that's where genetic drift comes in. This is the effect of pure dumb luck. Imagine a bolt of lightning just happens to zap a few beetles that are all a certain color. Well, the gene pool has changed, but not because one color was better than another. It was just random chance. And this process has a huge impact, especially in smaller populations. So here's the deal, and what I think is so cool about this. In a huge population, selection is usually the top dog, powerfully pushing the population towards being better adapted. But in a really small population, the random roll of the dice from drift can actually take over, sometimes locking in traits that are just neutral or even a little bit harmful. They're both always happening, but which one is in the driver's seat really depends on the situation. Okay, so we've got our engine, mutation, selection, and drift. Now, where do we find the proof that this thing has been running for, billions of years? Well, the first place we're going to look is in the rocks right beneath our feet, the fossil record. This is one of my favorite stories in science. See, long before we found the key fossils, the theory of evolution made a super bold prediction. If land animals came from fish, then somewhere, in rocks of the right age, we should find fossils of creatures that are part fish, part land animal. So paleontologists went looking and they found them. This incredible series here ends with Tiktaalik, a creature that is the perfect missing link. It had gills and scales like a fish, but also a flat skull, a neck that could move, and the beginnings of wrists to do push-ups. It's exactly what the theory said we'd find. Amazing! And look, this wasn't a one-off thing. This pattern shows up again and again and again. We see it in whales, of all things, evolving from four-legged land mammals, with their nostrils slowly moving up to the top of their head to become a blowhole. We see it in dinosaurs, sprouting feathers and wishbones long before any of their relatives ever took flight. These are powerful, undeniable patterns, written in stone. Now, as incredible as fossils are, the most decisive, the most rock-solid evidence for evolution, well, it isn't buried in stone. It's written in the genetic code of every living thing, including you and me right now. Okay, get this. Our closest living relatives, chimps, gorillas, orangutans, they all have 24 pairs of chromosomes. But humans, we only have 23. So what gives? If we all share a common ancestor, there's got to be an explanation. The theory makes a really specific prediction. At some point in our past, two of our ancestors' chromosomes must have fused together. And here it is, the smoking gun. When scientists finally sequenced our genome and looked closely at our second largest chromosome, they found exactly what a fusion would leave behind. See, chromosomes have these protective caps at the ends called telomeres. Our chromosome 2 has telomere DNA smack dab in the middle, where they shouldn't be, and it has the ghost of a second centrosome. It's like finding two train cars welded together. You can still see the old coupling points. It's a molecular scar, an undeniable fingerprint of our shared past. So this shared history, it's not just hiding in our DNA, it's also mapped right onto the bodies of living animals, and even in where they live around the world. And you have got to remember this one key thing about evolution. It's a tinkerer. It's not a grand engineer designing things perfectly from a blank slate. Nope. It can only work with what's already there, which leads to some pretty quirky, good enough solutions instead of perfect designs. And these quirks are the best clues. The panda's thumb? It's not a real thumb at all. It's just a modified wrist bone that's been sort of jury-rigged to help it hold bamboo. Or, and this one's wild, the recurrent laryngeal nerve in a giraffe. To get from the brain to the voice box, just a few inches away, it goes all the way down the neck, loops around an artery near the heart, and comes all the way back up. It's an absolutely bonkers detour that makes zero sense, until you realize it follows the path it inherited from our fish ancestors. It's the same history that explains why islands have such unique creatures, like all those different Galapagos finches, who all evolved from just one type of ancestor that got blown out there long ago. Okay, so you might be thinking this is all stuff that happened millions of years ago. But nope, one of the most amazing things about evolution is that we can literally watch it happen right now, right before our eyes. Remember those Galapagos finches? Well, two biologists, Peter and Rosemary Grant, spent decades watching them, and they saw natural selection in action. A huge drought hit the island, and all the plants with small, easy-to-eat seeds died. The only food left was these big, tough seeds. And as you can see right here, the finches that happened to have slightly bigger, stronger beaks were the ones who could eat and survive. The population's average beak size visibly changed in a single generation. Wow. And this very same process is playing out all around us, in ways that really, really matter. Every time we use antibiotics, we're creating this intense pressure for any bacteria that just happens to have a random mutation for resistance. They're the ones that survive, they multiply, and that leads to the terrifying crisis of antibiotic-resistant superbugs. It's the same story with pesticides on farms and even with birds and insects adapting to life in our cities. This is evolution in real time. Okay, let's bring this all home. Why should you care about any of this? Well, because understanding evolution isn't just some boring academic exercise. It has huge practical consequences, and it totally changes how we see ourselves and our place in the universe. Get this. Evolution didn't just stop when humans showed up. In fact, our own culture has become one of the most powerful evolutionary forces on the planet. Just look at lactose tolerance. Almost all mammals stop being able to digest milk when they grow up. But in human groups that domesticated cattle and started dairying, a mutation that let adults keep digesting milk was a massive nutritional advantage. The cultural practice drove genetic change. That's gene-culture coevolution, and it's incredible. And today, this isn't just a theory, it's a toolkit we use every single day. We use it to track viruses like the flu so we can update our vaccines. We use it to manage the genetic health of endangered species so they don't go extinct. We even harness it in the lab to design new medicines. And it helps us understand why we get so many modern diseases like diabetes or allergies. Our bodies are basically adapted for a world that doesn't exist anymore, and our genes just haven't caught up. At the end of the day, the theory of evolution gave us a new story. It replaced an old idea of a static world with this breathtaking, dynamic story of constant change, of deep time, and of a fundamental kinship with every living thing on this planet. So, here we are, the one species we know of that has actually figured out the very process that created it. That's us. And the question that knowledge leaves us with is, what do we do with it now?